During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with James Fiore. How are you doing today, James?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I just want to shout out Carla for the connection.
Hey, my granddaughter told me you were coming.
Yeah.
I'm glad you came.
Thank you. For the first question I want to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I've had many careers. I'm 75 years old, and I've had many careers over the years, but a lot of them revolved around real estate in one way or another. I have a degree in accounting. I did a little teaching. I've had a chain of retail stores, liquor and convenience stores. I've had a group of insurance companies. I'm a real estate broker. I had a business brokerage that I ran selling other people's businesses. And primarily now I manage my own portfolio of properties, and I do what's called hard money lending. And that maybe have to be explained. It's a secondary market in lending entrepreneurs money, because my experience as an entrepreneur myself, I feel comfortable with using my own funds to sponsor a lot of times young people just starting out and helping them fulfill some of their ideas.
So for you, you just broke down how you had a journey of basically almost every type of industry. So throughout every industry that you've been a part of when it comes to investing in real estate, what has been your biggest success when it comes to return on investment?
Real estate itself, it creates wealth. If you work in a factory, or you work for a salary, or you work doing mundane things, it's difficult to accumulate wealth. But with real estate, you can get a positive cash flow at times, and the real estate itself appreciates considerably, especially, for the instance, the city of Springfield. I've owned over 300 properties in Springfield. And at one time, you could buy a two-family house for $20,000. Now they're $300,000. Now some people have owned those houses right along, and they've operated and they've had positive cash flow renting them. Rents in Springfield are $2,000 a month now. Just a few years ago, they were half of that. So it's not difficult to have a positive cash flow, even in light of the acquisition costs have tripled and quadrupled, but that also reflects your net worth. I've always had real estate as a core of whatever I was doing at the time. When I had the chain of liquor stores, I used to buy depressed liquor stores, rehab them, bring in a marketing program, and resell them for 10 times what I bought them for, and gave other people opportunities to run them. Most of my stores now are run by first-generation people, Indians, Pakistanis, Asians, Portuguese, people that are willing to work and work hard and outwork a lot of American people. But that was a exercise in appreciation, buying low and selling high. I've done over 300 flips, which I don't know if you know what that means. You buy a house, you improve it, you hold it, and then you resell it. And there's a lot of young people doing flips now, and a lot of people are making money with it, as long as the prices continue to accelerate, as they have since 2008. 2008, we had a big real estate bust, created a lot of opportunity for people. I bought over 160 individual houses in a year period in 2008. Now, those houses that I bought were in the greater Springfield area, surrounding towns, and I paid anywhere between $30,000 and $60,000 for them. So I had a huge inventory of properties, but at that time, the resale wasn't there. Nobody had the confidence in the real estate market, so you couldn't really sell them for a lot more than you bought them. Over time, that confidence grew, prices went up. Now those same houses for $30,000 to $60,000 are worth 250 to 600,000. Same properties. I had confidence in the real estate market, and I still continue to encourage young people to get their feet wet. In the beginning, you got to work hard. You got to take a lot of chances. You got to know the market. You got to know what's a good buy. You got to know the range in which you can sell that property at. You got to know how you're going to get from point A to point B, because a lot of people run out of steam. They're undercapitalized, and they get into something that they don't have experience with, and they don't have the money to follow through, and some people get knocked out. But I think that one step at a time, hard work. As I said, I've done it for 50 years, so with doing it all of that long period of time, you have an opportunity to create considerable wealth. And I think that at this point in my life, I find it very gratifying to talk to young people like yourself and give them some insight into, what I've done. And many times we have occasions where a lot of young people gather, and they come up to me and say, I heard you lend money. I heard you did this project. I heard you, how do I get started? What can I do? And we have some pretty gratifying conversations.
So for you, how were you able to grow your capital to a point where you're comfortable enough to buy over 160 properties?
I did it by the skin of my teeth. There was a bank. It was called Nouveau Bank, and they were what's called a startup bank. And they were looking for investors. And they solicited a lot of business people to give them money so they can start a bank. Now, at that time, I had a portfolio of properties, not a great one, but I had some properties, and a lot of those properties were paid for. So as what they call an incorporator of that bank, I was able to talk directly to some of the officers and convince them to pledge my existing equity in real estate to borrow money from them. And I borrowed $3 million from them, which was a lot of money in '08. And I started purchasing these houses for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And it was very hectic for a while. I had a crew of people out looking at the houses, and there wasn't a lot of competition. Nobody was really interested. There was a big real estate bust, and there was no financing available. We just got done with the big bond crisis, and a lot of banks were going under. It was a hectic time. I already had some properties, bought another 160. I had over 200 properties. Individual houses, 2 families, 3 families, single families. I used to like to buy small single family houses because my intention was to improve the houses and then flip them to owner occupants, which would be more difficult with multis. Now multifamily properties are of a premium because people can afford to buy a 3-family house and collect that rent and make things work. But over a period of time, from '08 to date, I've managed the properties and I've sold them off. You got to be careful. You sell too many in one year, your capital gains go through the roof, and you're giving away half of your money. So you sell a few every year, and it adds to your liquidity. So now I've taken those, say, 300 properties, and I've only got 20 left. I've sold them all over time. What did that create? A huge pool of money. What do I do with the money? I lend it to young people. And a lot of people who are not, a lot of first generation people that are not bankable, a lot of young people who are just getting started out that have some ambition are not candidates for conventional loans. Sometimes I give them seed money. I finance a lot of the gas stations and convenience stores around town. Most of those people are huge success stories. They came here 25 years ago from India and Pakistan, China, and there was nothing at all. And now they're multimillionaires. Who owns 6 gas stations? Who owns 4 Chinese restaurants? But they sacrificed. They educated their children. Most of their children are professionals now. They went to Ivy League colleges. The people sacrificed. They worked hard. They one of their priorities was to put their kids through college. I can give you an example of an Indian guy who I financed half a dozen of his businesses. Both his kids are doctors now. He came here, he lived on Rutledge Avenue lived in the bottom floor of a 3-family house, had 3 generations in a 5-room apartment when he came here. Just built him a huge house out in Agawam. He's very well off. He helps other people come here from other countries and get started. But he can talk to you about our relationship and how strong it was and how it helped him.
So when you're looking to when you're giving back to the people in your community, whether it's the like young entrepreneurs like myself or people that are trying to look to grow their portfolio, what are you looking for in somebody to be like, okay, this is the type of person that I do want to work with?
I think education is important. I think that college doesn't give you the skills to conquer the world, but it gives you a couple of things. It gives you vocabulary, and the biggest thing, it gives you self-confidence. So you're able to talk to professional people on their level, because eventually you're going to have to talk to accountants and lawyers and bankers and insurance people. And if they're talking over your head and you don't know what the hell they're talking about, it puts you at a big disadvantage. So education is a good starting point. I also look at people's energy levels and what their ideas are. Are they willing to work? Are American people willing to work as hard as these first generation people, which you see all around you right now? Are they willing to work as hard? Some of them are, most of them aren't. Most of them are going to be a bus driver and I don't have to work too hard and I'm going to make $600 a week and everybody's going to be happy, you know. And that's, if you're happy and healthy, those are the most important things. But other people have other ambitions and they want to build some wealth. They want to create an estate to pass it along to grandchildren. And I didn't start off in a house like this. I started off on a house, a 3-family house on Oakland Street on the first floor. And I traded up over a 30, 40-year period. This house was originally a speculation. It was in ill repair and it was undervalued. And I saw it and my family liked it, so I had the liquidity and I bought it, and it's worth 10 times what I paid for it now. But I had to rehab it, I had to fix it, I had to cruise to do it because I was already in the construction business. But everything is gradual. You can't rush things. And teamwork, communication, your reputation is very important. Springfield is a small town. Everybody knows what this guy does, what that guy does, who to stay away from, who do you want to work with, who do you want to get to know. And it's not a question of ass kissing. It's a question of networking with positive people with positive attitudes and positive energy. A little at a time, you have to be conscious of your reputation. Like I said, one guy's cheat somebody or shortchange somebody or didn't perform as he professes to perform, people start staying away from you and you don't have the same opportunities offered to you.
So for you, how did you get into real estate? What was it about real estate that was like caught your attention?
First property I bought was a 3-family house on Oakland Street, which I occupied the first floor, and I was looking for a place to live. I just got married and I paid $12,000 for it. And it was fairly good shape, but the apartment I wanted to live in needed a rehab. So my wife and myself rehabbed it. And I didn't have much money to hire professionals. So when I hired someone like a plumber or whatever, I would watch what he was doing. And I would try to figure out next time around how to do it myself. And I saw the fact that this particular investment, a 3-family house, gave me an opportunity to live rent-free. Even though the apartment's only rented for $150 a month, the other 2 apartments paid my mortgage. So now I'm sitting there, I got a free place to live, and the house is getting more valuable every year. Now that house has sold several times over the years. Last time it transferred for $325,000, $12,000. Okay. If I would have chose to operate the house, I could have easily operated the house because now the rents are $1,800 a month. It used to be $150 when I bought it. So, like I said, the real estate was a gradual evolution, and I was being rewarded by creating equity and a lot of hard work and a lot of risk, a lot of networking and knowing the market. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. You don't win all the time. You have to calculate the risk and decide whether it's for you or not. You can't just dive in and buy everything. I want to be in real estate and whatever. I have the credentials. I have a degree in accounting. I'm a real estate broker. I'm an insurance broker. So I know the game. All those things I was doing simultaneously with real estate. My first job out of college was a corporate accounting job. And I was recruited to do a financial training program with a Fortune 500 company. And I thought to myself, and I still, when I was working for them as an accountant, I still was investing in real estate a little bit. So I was thinking to myself, here I am, I'm an accountant, I'm working really hard, and all I'm doing is counting other people's money. I don't have an opportunity to get my hands on any of this. I'm transferring $1 million to a fossil fuel generator in India, and I get my salary. And if I do a good job, I'll get a little bonus or maybe a little more money. And also, in this corporate structure, I was on the financial training program, and I was in Stamford, Connecticut, where all the CEOs located. This company had many divisions, had many CEOs. And I'm looking at the background of the CEOs that were there. Not too many of them had financial backgrounds. The head accountant, he was a CPA and a lawyer and a workaholic, and he was getting paid the least of any CEO that was there. He was the chief financial officer, and he worked the hardest. And then I said to myself, I want to do something on my own. I don't want to end up like these people. I worked with a pool of over 200 accountants. And I remember going back 15 years later, a lot of them guys were still in the same cubicle I left them in. But they got satisfaction out of some of the things. They had hobbies. Who's a golfer? Who's a gardener? Who's a boater? And so that's how they got that was their interest, and that's what they pursued. But they're still, and a few of them maybe worked their way up a bit, but most of them didn't. Most of them fostered a mediocrity. And I said, that's not for me. I'd rather take a shot at business.
So what was your first business venture?
My first business was a paper route. That was my first business venture. I had a paper route with about 20 customers. I grew it to about 150 customers, and then I sold
it. So how did you build it from 20 to 100?
I solicited people. I says, you're getting a paper? You happy with your paper, boy? You going to give me a shot? And I did a good job, and I had somebody that trained with me, and eventually there was cash flow in the business, and I turned it over to him, and I made a profit. My next job, I worked at the Forest Park Pony Ring, and I used to get paid for how many times I brought people around on the pony ring. And there was a guy that owned it because it was a private concession. And I was kind of intrigued by it because the harder he worked, the more he made. He wasn't employed by the city. He just paid a lease for it. And we had a lot of different things to encourage people to come to the park, get a pony ride. We had a horse and buggy. We had private horses to ride through the park. And the guy developed it. And I helped him at the time, and he got older, and now there's no more concession. But I liked the idea of growing that business. And I was about 12 years old at the time. Paper route, I was probably 10 years old, maybe. Then I was at high school to contend with, which I didn't do well in high school. But toward my last years in high school, I said, I think I should go to college. And now I'm looking at the fact that my grades are terrible in high school. So I had 1 year to make them good. So last year I got honor roll and everything because I was motivated to go to college. And I went to AIC in Springfield, and I didn't know what I wanted to major in. But I knew the guy who was the head of the accounting department. So I went and talked to him. I said, what should I major in? He goes, I major in accounting. I'll take care of you. I figured I had the inside track, but I didn't realize how hard accounting major is. It was a difficult major, probably the hardest one in the business school. But I'm glad I stuck with it, and I'm glad I have a background in accounting. It helped me a lot over the years. And then from there, I got recruited by that Fortune 500 company. And from there, I was in business for myself after that, different types. I've owned a group of nightclubs, which was fun, interesting. I own a group of restaurants, which is fun and interesting. I wouldn't recommend that to people at this point in time. I think that's a difficult business, a high failure rate, high capital investment. But I did it. I worked through it. And then I had a group of insurance companies, primarily personal lines, homeowners, and auto. And I ended up selling that to people, made a big profit on that. And let me see, what did I do now? Oh, then I had 13 liquor stores. They were called One Stop Liquors. If you see them around the area, I owned all the One Stop Liquors. And I built them up and I resold them. And I like construction. I like to build something. I like to see it develop. I like to get up in the morning and say, I got to go to this job site or that job site and see what's going on. And that was my first taste of real money, buy a store for $100,000 and sell it for $500,000. From there, I said, geez, I know the nightclub business, I know the restaurant business, I know the package store business. I developed a business brokerage where I sold businesses for other liquor-related businesses. And I ran a column, and there was no competition. I was the only one. And I would offer 20 different businesses to people. And made a 10% commission, which is higher than normal. Nobody was competing with me. I was the only guy. You want to buy a liquor store? I got 6 of them. You want a restaurant? I got 10 of them. I show you how to run them. I'll tell you how to take the inventory. And so I did that for a few years. And then came 2008. The economy collapsed. There's opportunity. And like I told you about Nouveau Bank, I got some capital, and I started buying a serious amount of real estate. And got net worth over $50 million right now. So that's the story, from the paper route up.
What was like your biggest mistake that you made or biggest lesson that you've learned throughout your career?
Sometimes I was disappointed in people that I put a lot of faith in. So you've got to judge your acquaintances, and you've got to be able to do things on your own if you have to. You can't say that I'm only going to do this if I got an army of people behind me, because I'm a one-man show. I have a family that helps me, and I hire people, professionals, and I have a construction crew. But sometimes you think people come around, they want to be a partner in something or other, and for one reason or another, they didn't perform. So that was probably the biggest disappointment. And also, you got to separate personal relationships from business relationships at times. A person told me a long time ago, don't lend money to your friends, because sometimes you lose your friends. So I stayed that course. And my biggest mistake might have maybe putting overconfidence and dependence on other people.
So why was it that you were so confident in these people that they let you down? Was it that you seen their value in them and you seen their full potential, or was it more of a you trust them, so you're just going to give them the opportunity?
I trusted certain aspects and certain skills that they had. And then when it came down to the hard work and integrity, they didn't have it. Integrity is very important.
So what are some ways that you're able to tell when somebody doesn't have any integrity?
When they're not performing, when you catch them in lies, when you catch them in deceit, when you expect a certain level of work out of them and they're not doing it, throwing it back at you. You get a young guy and you've got a project and you expect him to be on the job, not playing golf and not socializing. Now it's crazy. At Springfield, what do we got? We got a casino. We got 100 pot spots. There's a lot of distractions right now. What is our main business thing in Springfield? Is it selling marijuana? It's so distorted because who sells the marijuana? The former politicians sell the marijuana, which is another disgrace. And I just think that you should have some integrity in what you do, enjoy what you do, and work hard.
So you talked about how you were getting into these businesses, you would buy them and then you sell them. When you bought your first business or whatever it was, like, did you always have your intentions to resell the business?
Yes. I saw, when you're talking about the liquor stores, if you look at the history of the liquor stores around here, historically, liquor stores were what's called fair traded. If you bought a bottle of J&B at one store, it was about the same price at the other store. And the people running the store, I don't want to be discriminatory, were primarily Irish people, hooligans, all packaged. And a lot of those people, not because they were Irish, because they were former employees, the city employees or whatever, who had a pension or some savings, and they want to buy a liquor store but not work too hard. So they'd have a liquor store, first of all, and it was fair traded, and the prices were high, and they didn't do big volumes of business. And there was a lot of resistance to that. There was a lot of resistance to the fact that liquor stores only sold liquor. I created a concept that I sold liquor and convenience goods under the same roof. And that was actually illegal at the time, and I had the law changed. I fought it in the courts, and all the other stores lobbied against me. I was sued by the state because a lot of these Irish guys that owned the stores, were politically connected. So they lobbied the Democratic machine to start a state suit against me for price fixing and owning more stores than I'm supposed to own and all this kind of stuff. Won in the courts. They couldn't limit trade. It's against federal laws. So they're suing me in state court, and I hired a federal attorney, and we beat it. So you see stores now, they sell a lot of different things. But before, they used to chastise you for selling potato chips in the store. And One Stop was the concept where you're going to have a convenience store and a liquor store under one set of overhead, and consequently able to generate more net profit. So people like that, and I was able to bring the sales level. Also, I discounted, and it was frowned on to discount. You had to sell your thing for the high prices everyone else sold it for. So I had an idea that I would sell the large packages at a discount. A gallon of milk, a carton of cigarettes, 1.75 of liquor. But I would keep a pretty high margin on the small sizes, which was similar to the other stores. But they had a reason to come to my store. I had the best price of a half a gallon of vodka, or I had the best price of Budweiser. So the radius of business that these little stores were doing kept expanding. And so a store that did 300,000 might do 3 million over a period of time. And as long as you can manage the activity, then also because you're doing the volume, you can purchase your products cheaper, and you can pass that along. And all of a sudden, Flanagan's package store was selling a 1.75 of vodka for $15, and you're selling it for $8. And you're making a couple dollars too. I couldn't afford to sell everything at a discount. I still had my small sizes with a full markup, but we had some great leaders. And there's a one-stop store and Boston Road or Central Street or whatever. I don't own them anymore, and a lot of them have changed their marketing programs. But we started selling into other areas and actually putting other stores out of business, which wasn't my intention, but it actually happened. I went out to the Palmer area with one store, and I put 3 or 4 of them out of business because people were very price conscious out that way and willing to travel, and they'd come with their pickup trucks and their flannel shirts and say, "You got that beer for $6?" Yeah, I got the beer for $6. Yeah, I just paid $12 to the other place. You know? So that grew, and when the sales volumes were up, I was able to sell these stores to owner-operators for a lot of money, and they were happy too. They made money too. If they held on to the same marketing programs, they would have probably done better, but a lot of them got complacent. They wanted higher markups, and some of the businesses did well, and some of them didn't. Most of them did well for quite a while. A lot of them have changed owners over the years. But I found that retail was confining for me. When I was developing the liquor stores with the real estate in conjunction, I buy the real estate and the business. I was looking at both as an investment in the business potential. There's enough square footage, as the demographics of the area where it's located have potential, And so we were able to develop the businesses. And again, I found retail a bit confining. Over time, during when I was doing the liquor stores, I also invested in rental properties. And when I created a lot of cash flow from the sale of liquor stores, I invested into more real estate. And that's when I started getting serious with the rehabs, the flips, the rentals.
So when it comes to buying and flipping these businesses, what are like the biggest thing that you've noticed when it comes to people wanting to buy your businesses?
The biggest thing that what motivated a buyer,
Yeah.
basically the values that you're offering them. Are you offering them real estate in that neighborhood? Are you offering them cash flow to support the real estate?
All your stores in general that you've sold, all the businesses in general, like what were like the biggest thing that you've noticed throughout every buyer when it came to them wanting to buy your properties?
That there was a real value there. Even though you're selling it you're not pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. You're giving them a different product than that you obtained. You brought in a marketing program. You brought in advertising with other groups of stores. You brought in discounting, and you improved the real estate. Most of these stores weren't self-service. They'd have a nice building, but there'd be a little liquor store. And you say, give me a six-pack of Budweiser. The operator would go and get that six-pack and give it to you. I would take the same building and I would retail it out to the perimeters of the building, and I would create self-service on everything in the store and with a checkout. Most of your stores weren't like that. They would give me a pint of vodka, and I would go and get a pint of vodka. And then you look at the store and you say, what's in the store? Well, there's a big back room. Him and his friends play cards in that back room. They want to keep that back room. The cellar's not even being used. You don't need a lot of space if everybody sells for the same price. But I brought in self-service, and that cut down on labor and increased my ability to carry inventory. And also the wholesalers participated in giving free labor. They'd come in and set up their own displays. They'd stock your cooler if you had a big cooler to stock. And they were making money. The more they could display, the more they made. And I would get free labor, and I would get better pricing, and everything complemented each other.
So if you had to start over today, what would you do differently what you did 50 years ago?
That's hard to say. I get a lot of kids saying, what should I do to get started? I don't know. As I said, I think you should have an educational background. You should look to people that are successful and see if they would share some of the things that they've done. You should have a work ethic, most important, because I see these first generation people coming over. And I'm sure you guys know, you go into a convenience store or a gas station nowadays, you don't see American people. You see Indian people, you see Pakistani people, and there's no American people working in the stores. They come over from third world countries, and they're willing to work crazy hours for short money, but they have in mind that someday they're going to own a store, because I get the employees on the side that come to me and say, I really want to, I've been running this store for a long time, I want to have my own store. You think you can help me out? Sometimes I do. But they have the work ethic. I think work ethic is really important. And I think in Springfield, there's too much supplementing. The housing stock is supplementing. There's too many people that have a free ride. They don't know what it is to work hard. And they see generational welfare. There's too much generational welfare. And they're letting these people from other countries come in and run the show because of their work ethic. So I would say work hard. Get an educational background, work hard, and do something you enjoy doing. Don't do anything you don't enjoy doing, because someone's buying your life. I had an uncle that used to take me fishing, and he worked at the Fisk Rubber Company. And it was a dirty job, and they didn't have air conditioning, and he worked really hard. And we used to go fishing. He used to tell me how much he hated working there. But he had to stay there, because if he stays there a little longer, he'll get 3 weeks vacation. He's got extra money going into his retirement, and someday he's going to have. He retired in the 60s and died in the 70s, and had a few years someone bought his whole life for a wage and incentives. It's a trap. Don't get trapped.
In my book, Realistic CEO, we talk about the LBW. the long, lonely, boring work. So can you tell us about the LBW that you had to do in your career to get to where you are today?
I think I rolled up my sleeves, and as I told you in the beginning, if I had someone that was doing some tradesman work for me, I'd learn how to do it myself and watch the plumber and say, yeah, I can do that. I can't afford $50 an hour. I'll do it myself next time. Get a little knowledge of construction helps you when you own real estate. And then, a little knowledge of finance, a little knowledge of insurance, they all help you because they're all work in concert in order to create a bottom line.
I just have one more question for you. Yeah. It's what's one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
I like to go fishing. I'm going Thursday, actually.
Like,
I travel. I've been all over the world. And that's why I didn't like the confinement of retail, because I've been all over the world, and I prioritize travel. And that helped me a lot. When you go to Asia and Africa and the Middle East and different entrepreneurial ideas, you see how people live. You get an appreciation for how great this country is and how people want to come here. And sometimes I see young people saying, this is bad and that's bad, and Trump and this and that. We have the best country in the world here, and people want to come here, and there is opportunity here. And the people that are taking advantage of that opportunity are foreigners now. I have a son that's an architect, very high IQ, and he had a master's degree at UMass. And in his graduating class, they started off with about 60 kids. They ended up with about 25, and 20 of them were foreign students. It was a difficult major. It was an honors course. And these foreign students come in with the work ethic, and they outworked all the American people in their own neighborhood.
thank you. I just want to thank you again for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to allow me to interview you. So thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Thanks for coming. It's a privilege to be able to talk to young people. I get a lot of satisfaction out of doing that. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you're motivated.
Thank you.
And if
Appreciate
there's anything I can help you with, don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah. So honestly, that's for me. I do have trouble asking because I naturally don't like to bother people. So when I'm asking a lot of questions, like when it comes to mentors outside of when I'm done interviewing, I do kind of stay away from asking questions, but not more of a way of me thinking that I know it all, more of I don't want to bother people way. So I do got to work on reaching out to people.
Yeah. Self-confidence and enjoying what you're discussing, what your objectives are. Some people like certain things and some people don't. Don't do anything you don't like. If you like something, you'll excel in it. If you don't like it, you'll be brought down by it. And there's a lot of discontented people out there. And there's a lot of non-working people. It really bugs me. There's a lot of non-working people. And especially in the Springfield area, because there's a lot of incentives not to work nowadays. But what are you going to accomplish by not working? You're going to live in the project. You're going to show an example to your kids and grandchildren that if you don't work, you can still get by. It's not positive stuff. But I think a lot of people are striving to get educated and to work hard. But I don't know. I've been in the inner city a lot, making a living. A lot of people in the inner city. And there are a lot of positive role models, but there's a lot of non-working, non-functional, non-motivated people that are inflicting that on future generations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I want to thank every single one of you for all the support you have shown in this past year, my journey of becoming the realistic CEO. So ways that you can support even more is by going onto my website, www.realisticCEO, and ordering your copy of the Realistic CEO book. See you in the next episode. Peace.